Part 3. Acts 2 describes recognizable human languages. On the day of Pentecost, the disciples were filled with the Holy Spirit and began speaking in other tongues. But Luke does not stop with that description. He tells us that Jews from many nations were present in Jerusalem. They were astonished because each one heard the disciples speaking in his own dialect. Acts 2, 7-11 says, "Are not all these who are speaking Galileans? And how is it that we hear, each of us in his own native language? We hear them telling in our own tongues the mighty works of God." Luke uses glōssa, tongue or language, and dialectos, native language or dialect. The audience identifies geographical and ethnic groups: Parthians, Medes, Elamites, residents of Mesopotamia, Judea, Cappadocia, Pontus, Asia, Egypt, Libya, Rome, Crete, Arabia, and others. These were not random sounds interpreted by an emotional impression. The speakers were Galileans. The hearers recognized languages associated with their native regions. The content communicated was the mighty works of God. Therefore, the tongues of Acts 2 were supernaturally enabled, previously unlearned by the speakers. Meaningful. Recognizable as languages. Understood by people familiar with those languages. Used to proclaim God's works across national boundaries. The miracle was not the suspension of meaning. The miracle was the supernatural production of meaningful speech. Some argue that the real miracle occurred only in the hearing, that the apostles spoke one language while every listener heard his own language. The miracle was not the suspension of meaning. The miracle was the supernatural production of meaningful speech. Some argue that the real miracle occurred only in the hearing, that the apostles spoke one language while every listener heard his own language. But Acts 2 and 4 says the disciples began to speak in other tongues. Luke locates the supernatural action in the speaking, even though miraculous hearing may also have been involved. Nothing in the passage resembles a room full of people simultaneously repeating non-linguistic syllables without interpretation. Acts 2 therefore provides the clearest narrative definition of Christian tongues. Anyone claiming that the same expression describes a fundamentally different phenomenon in 1 Corinthians bears the burden of showing that difference from Paul's words.